Things are just wild, 5.5 inches, surprisingly capable. And this isn't even the biggest one. This is not what we're looking at here today, though, because this is not super practical. I know some of you guys do. Shout out if you carry a over 5-inch pocket knife. Leave a comment below, and especially if it's one from Cold Steel. Let us know. What we're looking at today is a shrunk down version of, if I can get it here, the Talwar. The Indo-Persian designed pocket knife. Now the full size, that's like 5.5 inches, and I think they even have a bigger one, has been around forever. But this is a 4-inch version, much more carryable. And so in today's video, we're not only going to unpack that and just what I have found with this, which is some interesting performance that I wasn't really expecting out of this blade, but also value compared to a couple other Cold Steels I have here on the table. Welcome back, all of you blade lovers worldwide. Thanks for hanging with me today. I'm Aaron. This is Gideonstactical. And we're going to begin with the blade shape, right? That's what really helps accentuate a lot of the design that a lot of people are going to connect with right out of the gate, is that Persian, sword, dagger style. Basically a trailing point, meaning that the tip is higher than the flat portion with the handle. So the tip does do that. It sweeps up. We have, out of 4 inches, we have about 3.5 inches of pure belly. So it's just continuous edge geometry. So unlike, say, a medieval sword from Europe that would be more designed, you could slash with it, but designed definitely to pierce, this is more like a scimitar in the sense that it can sweep, and it's like a sweeping cut is what the blade is designed to do. And so with sweeping, because it's basically a full flat grind, we have just a slight drop right here at the end, but we're basically looking at full flat grind with a stock thickness of 0.135, so just like a micron over 1/8 of an inch thick. You're going to get mind-boggling sliceability on every front with this knife. So if you're looking for that, that definitely is going to accentuate it for a big knife. Some big knives, they're like pry bars, they're crowbars, the one that we'll look at a little bit later. Definitely not as slicey as like the AD10 because of edge, grind geometry, not edge geometry, but grind geometry and stock thickness. So on all of those fronts, it is mind-boggling. And in a self-defense role, which I do not recommend, if you're not trained, good luck. The last thing you'd ever want to be is in a knife fight in your whole freaking life. But you get this sweeping motion, you get an ability to slash, and it will accelerate whatever cut you come in contact with, regardless if it's material that's man-made or not. So those are the benefits right there. One thing that I did notice, because of the trailing point and the way your hand geometry is, the tip is like, let's look here. Okay, here's like a perfect line. I'm going to try and line this up here just so you can see. We're looking at probably an inch at least where the tip is not in line with your wrist. And you may not think that that really means a whole lot, but what I found was for utility, when I'm going in to pierce something, you can see the tip is so far angulated from where the tip could like normally be that it's a little awkward. You actually have to do like a weird wrist kink to get like a straight on pierce into certain packaging, because the blade actually wants to come in contact right here, is like the peak point, if that makes sense. And so you actually have to come down a little bit. Now, if you're holding it in a reverse grip, it actually accentuates it even more. So again, for stabbing, you can't get more amazing edge geometry, I would say tip geometry in your hand for stabbing in a reverse grip. In a natural hammer grip, what ended up happening a lot of the time is I would like try to pierce a package, and your package is like here. And so you have to do this weird kind of kick and almost like hook the package. So it's not as intuitive for utility piercing as you might think, which was kind of surprising and something I just wasn't prepared for. I mean, when we look at something like, I'll just line up in here. Look at the difference. Here we go. This is what I should have done from the beginning. Look at the difference between the RECON one and its drop and where the Talwar is. And that may not seem like a ton to you, but when you actually go in for its pierce, it is significant in the trajectory of your arm, and it makes the ergonomics a little odd to pierce into a package to just like slice it open. Once it's pierced, it's going to be like zip, It'll be like a zipper, but that is something really interesting. So on top of that, we have a really nice swedge, helps balance the blade, looks elegant. And we're looking at Taiwanese-made S35 VN steel. It's awesome when they went to S35 VN. I think that was a great move. Now, really, until MagnaCut came along, S35 VN was my favorite like stainless steel on a fixed blade, particularly like a sub 5-inch fixed blade. Now the ergonomics are really interesting. First off, the handle is 5 1/4 inches, 5 1/8. So it is going to take up absolutely a bunch of real estate in your pocket. You need to be prepared for that, especially if you close it up. I mean, that is just quite a bit of knife there. It's about 5 ounces, which isn't terrible for a knife of this size. We do have G10 handle scales. And so when you hold it, I mean, you're in total control. You're going to be able to stab and pierce all day, more than almost any other knife I own. But it is something you got to get used to, especially in a natural grip when you're cutting and sweeping, and you may have some floatage right there with that middle finger. So that's how the ergonomics are. When we look here at deployment, this is different than a lot of other ones too. It's not an Emerson wave, but it kind of has that same idea. Some Cold Steels do this with this thumb plate right here, which works to hook your pocket and deploy one-handed. So you can just pull it out of your pocket and it will be deploying, which is super cool for speed of acquisition, again, going to using the knife in potentially a self-defense role. So that is definitely first and foremost the thought, utility second with this design. It can absolutely hook, it can absolutely grab. You gotta think about it a little bit, depending on the geometry of your pocket will determine if you might pull this out by accident without really wanting to deploy it, and it might. So just be aware of that. It is removable, so you could remove that and potentially, you know, in certain places, if you have to have like two-handed deployment, you might be able to get away with it. Don't quote me on that. Do everything at your own risk. But you could unscrew that potentially and enjoy this in certain areas where you technically have to have two hands to deploy the blade. Now, with the thumb, it's a little bit more difficult if you're doing it manually, like with your thumb. If you already have it out, you got to really get like this very corner angle right there. And definitely, this happens a lot, like that. And then definitely get a really good wrist flick. A thumb stud, like on the RECON, way easier just to engage with your thumb than the thumb plate. Particularly on this model, because it's so far away from where your thumb naturally wants to go and just where you're trying to grip the knife. You can do it, but you just really got to like practice and really get it. And probably the smaller the hand, the harder it's going to be. So there's that. Let's talk about pricing. Really fluctuates a lot, and it's a little bit more expensive than almost any other S35VN knife of similar size that Cold Steel has. I don't know why. I don't know if there's just like a lot more milling involved. I don't know if it's so desirable that they're like, cool, we can score a little bit more. As an example, if you look at some distributors, this will be almost $200, like $190 for this model right here. Now, when I'm making this video, I was able to find it in stock on Amazon for like $155 for this particular model. The full-size version is actually even bigger, or sorry, cheaper. And I'll have a link popping up here to all the blades that we're talking about and to my Amazon store, as well as like DLT Trading, Blade HQ, GP Knives, all that, so you can explore this model and all the other ones. I know some people have a hard time, you know, buying, you know, stuff on Amazon, particularly from Cold Steel. You know, like, I don't know if I'm getting a fake. I bought probably a dozen, and I've never gotten a fake. I bought this off of Amazon. This is not a fake. I bought this RECON off of Amazon. This one's not a fake. It's pretty easy to tell. This, when I'm making the video, this is the trick. Just look at the seller. If it's some weird name you've never heard of, then, you know, think twice, and I maybe wouldn't do that. But if it's a reputable dealer, or in this case, at the time of filming, Amazon is the seller of this, well, then that's reputable. And Amazon has free returns if you're not happy with it. If you're like, I don't know about this, then just return it. But the value, you know, I mean, I could save $30 compared to going with certain other distributors. It's like, okay. But at like $190, if we look at Blade HQ prices as the example, the RECON 1 is like $125. So, and I think there's like 95 on Amazon right now. Again, all included below. But I mean, that I don't understand. They're both made out of S35VN. They're almost exactly the same dimensions. Why is this, you know, like $60 to $70 more almost? Like, I don't quite get that. As another example, if we look at the AD10 in S35VN, the original drop point version, this is thicker stock S35VN. It's shorter. It's 3.5 inches, but it's way beefier. You know, big blade. And I think these are like they have some new color combos on Blade HQ right now that I saw for like $135. So again, you know, I don't really understand the pricing The AUS 10 version of the Espada, I think I saw for like 120, 110. You know, it's dwarfing that thing. So I don't understand the price analysis there. So you're going to be paying, the only way I can say it is I guess you're paying for design. I mean, that's the only thing I can kind of think of. You know, like where do I see this sitting? Well, I would say that for pure like speed of deployment and combativity, that's a word I just came up with, the Talwar, obviously. For general utility, but still giving you tons of aggressiveness, obviously the RECON one is mind-blowingly good. And because of the drop of the tip, that's definitely something to consider again. So for utility, these knives are definitely outbeating the Talwar, but on combativity, my word I just came up with, then definitely the Talwar I think has a leg up because of the grip points and then the blade shape and deployment speed. So all of those coming together. But that is the Talwar in 4-inch. There are other variants. Leave a comment below if you own one of these, your take on this knife in general, and if you have the big one, well, how does that stack up for you guys? I do appreciate you hanging with me today. I hope it's been fun and entertaining, but also giving you the data you need on whether or not the Talwar is worth putting in rotation, or it's better to go with one of the other tried and true variants of the Cold Steel and their Laka, Triad, and everything else. So appreciate you guys. Check out the other videos. Subscribe if you haven't. Till next time, always remember to stay equipped, stay prepared, and I'll see you out there.